Commander Vextall walked slowly into the large white room. His green skin looked pale under the bright lights. The Quarian officer's hands shook as he sat down at the metal table. Around him, creatures from many different planets watched with curious eyes. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of recording devices. Vextall had been running from this moment for 3 years. 3 years since his people had tried to take over a small blue planet called Earth. 3 years since everything went wrong. "State your name and rank for the record," said Tribunal Leader Mordok. The tall, gray alien's voice echoed in the chamber. "Commander Vextall of the Quarian Third Fleet," he replied. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Former Commander," he added, looking down at his scarred hands. Mordok leaned forward. "You were part of the Earth invasion force." Vextall nodded. "Slowly. I was there from the beginning. I saw it all." He paused and took a deep breath. "I wish I hadn't." The tribunal members exchanged glances. They had heard rumors about what happened to the Quarian forces at Earth. Wild stories that seemed impossible to believe. An entire fleet destroyed by a species that had barely learned to travel between stars. "Tell us what happened," Mordok commanded. Vextall closed his yellow eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were filled with fear. "We thought we knew about war. The Quarian Empire had won 47 battles. We had never lost a single fight, not once." He activated a small device on the table. A holographic image of Earth appeared, spinning slowly in the air. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from space. "High Command called it an easy target," Vextall continued. "The humans were primitive. They fought each other constantly with simple weapons. They had no united government, no real space fleet. Intelligence said they would surrender quickly." One of the tribunal members, an insect-like creature called Zixstock, clicked his mandibles. "How many soldiers did you send?" 50,000, Vextall replied. "For the entire planet, 8 billion humans lived there. But Command thought 50,000 Quarian warriors would be more than enough." The tribunal members looked surprised. 50,000 soldiers to conquer a planet of 8 billion seemed impossible. "The humans looked weak," Vextall explained. "They were always fighting wars with each other. Small wars, but constant. We watched them for months before the invasion. They used crude weapons, metal bullets, simple explosives, basic aircraft." He touched the device again. The hologram showed human cities with their tall buildings and busy streets. "We thought their constant fighting was a weakness. We were wrong. It was training." Mordok leaned back in his chair. "What do you mean?" Vextall's hands started shaking harder. Every human adult had some experience with violence. Their entertainment was full of war stories. Their children played war games. They studied ancient battles for fun. We thought this made them weak and divided. The image changed to show Quarian warships descending through Earth's clouds. The ships were massive and dark against the blue sky. "The first day went as planned," Vextall said. "We took their major cities without much trouble. Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London. Their armies scattered. Their governments went into hiding. We set up bases and waited for their surrender." He paused and rubbed his forehead. "The surrender never came." "What happened instead?" asked another tribunal member. "The humans disappeared," Vextall replied. "Not all of them, just enough. They melted away into their cities like smoke, into buildings, sewers, forests. We controlled the streets, but they controlled everything else." The hologram showed empty human streets with Quarian soldiers patrolling. Everything looked quiet and normal. On the second day, strange things began happening. Vextall continued. "Small explosions, sniper fire. Our communications were jammed. Supply convoys went missing. At first, we thought it was organized resistance forces." His voice grew quieter. "We were wrong again. It wasn't organized at all. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrifying chaos." The tribunal sat in silence, waiting for him to continue. "A human teenager in Seoul used something called the internet to teach millions of people how to fight us," Vextall said. "In hours. This child had never been a soldier, but somehow knew exactly how to hurt us. How to make bombs from cleaning supplies. Where to aim to damage our armor. How to move without being seen." The fear in his eyes grew stronger. "That was when we realized we weren't fighting an army. We were fighting an entire species that had spent thousands of years learning how to kill each other, and now they were using all that knowledge on us." Mordok shifted uncomfortably. "Surely your superior technology gave you an advantage." Vextall laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Superior technology means nothing when your enemy doesn't follow any rules. When children become soldiers, when grandmothers build bombs, when every human you see might be planning to kill you." He looked directly at the tribunal members. "We had conquered 47 worlds, but we had never fought humans before. And humans, we learned, don't fight like anyone else in the galaxy." The room fell silent as the weight of his words settled over them. Vextall touched the control device again. The hologram changed to show the first day of the invasion. Massive Quarian ships hung in Earth's sky like dark clouds over major cities. "The attack began at dawn," he said, his voice steady but his hands still trembling. We hit 12 cities at the same time. Our plan was simple: show overwhelming force, demand surrender, occupy the planet. The image showed beams of energy shooting down from the ships, destroying military bases and government buildings. Humans ran through the streets in panic. Their primitive vehicles clogged the roads as they tried to escape. For 6 hours, everything went perfectly, Vextal continued. Human military forces scattered or surrendered. Their leaders went into hiding. We landed our troops and set up command posts in the city centers. Tribunal member, Zixstock clicked his mandibles. Then what changed? Vextal's expression darkened. The humans stopped running. The hologram shifted to show a young human male sitting in front of a small device. The human looked calm, despite the chaos outside his window. This is Jay, Vextal explained. 17 years old. Not a soldier, not a leader, just a human child, who likes to play war games on computers. Within 3 hours of our landing, he was broadcasting on their global network. The tribunal watched as more humans appeared on screens, all talking rapidly in different languages. The images multiplied. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of humans, all sharing information. We didn't understand what they were doing at first, Vextal admitted. In every other conquest, communication networks collapsed quickly. People panicked. Leaders fled. Order broke down. He paused and looked at each tribunal member. But humans have something we had never encountered before. They call it the internet. Every human carries a small device that connects them to every other human on the planet. The hologram showed millions of small lights appearing across Earth's surface, all connected by thin glowing lines. While we were setting up command posts, the humans were sharing everything they learned about us, Vextal said. Jay recorded our patrol patterns from his apartment window. A woman named Hai in Seoul filmed how our armor moved. An old man called Dong in Tokyo watched our soldiers and figured out where we were vulnerable. The images showed humans hiding in buildings, watching Korean soldiers through windows and from rooftops. Each human held a small recording device. Within 6 hours, every human on the planet knew how to identify our weak spots, Vextal continued. They knew what chemicals from their stores could damage our equipment. They knew our patrol schedules. They knew which of our weapons were most dangerous. Mordok leaned forward. Surely your intelligence officers predicted this. Vextal shook his head. We studied 47 species before conquering them. None of them shared information like this. Most species have central governments that control communication. When you defeat the government, you control the information. The hologram showed human governments in hiding, their military forces scattered, their cities occupied. By normal standards, Earth should have been defeated. But humans don't need governments to organize, Vextal said quietly. They organize themselves. The image changed to show a human female in her kitchen. She looked like an ordinary civilian, middle-aged, wearing simple clothes, holding a baby. This is Min, Vextal explained. A mother of 2 from Busan. Before our invasion, she worked in a factory making electronics. She had never been a soldier. The tribunal watched as Min carefully took apart small electronic devices on her kitchen table. She moved with steady hands. Following instructions, she was reading from her communication device. Min learned to build electromagnetic pulse weapons. From kitchen appliances, Vextal said, she watched videos other humans posted online. In 2 days, she built 12 devices that could disable our patrol vehicles. The hologram showed Min placing small boxes near roads where Korean vehicles traveled. When the vehicles passed, the boxers activated, and the alien technology suddenly stopped working. She shared her designs with 10,000 other humans. Vextal continued. They improved her work and shared better designs. Within a week, humans across the planet were building weapons from garbage. Zixstock clicked nervously. What about your security forces? We tried to stop their communications, Vextal replied. We destroyed their broadcast towers, cut their cables, jammed their signals, but their network was too spread out, too flexible. When we cut one connection, they found 10 others. The image showed Korean soldiers smashing human communication equipment, while humans in nearby buildings continued broadcasting using different devices. And then the attacks began, Vextal said, his voice dropping to a whisper. The hologram showed a Korean patrol walking down an empty street in Seoul. The soldiers looked confident, their weapons ready but not raised. The street appeared safe. Suddenly, windows exploded outward from buildings on both sides. Humans poured out, not soldiers, but ordinary people. A teenage girl threw a bottle filled with burning liquid. An elderly man rolled a shopping cart packed with explosives toward the patrol. A young boy dropped a net from a rooftop. They attacked like no species we had ever seen, Vextal said. No formation, no coordination, no rules, just pure chaos. The Korean soldiers in the hologram fired their weapons, but the humans were already gone, disappeared back into buildings and alleys like ghosts. In 30 seconds, my entire patrol was destroyed, Vextal whispered, by humans who learned how to fight us from watching videos on their phones. Vextal's hands gripped the edge of the table as he prepared to continue. The hologram flickered and showed a Korean base camp in what had once been a human city park. Alien soldiers moved between temporary buildings, their weapons always ready. By the third day, we realized we were not fighting soldiers, Vextel said slowly. We were fighting an entire population that had decided to become soldiers. The image shifted to show a human school building. It looked empty and abandoned, with broken windows and damaged walls. Korean troops approached carefully, their scanners detecting weapons inside. Intelligence reported that humans were storing weapons in their learning centers, Vextel explained. My unit was sent to investigate this school in Busan. We expected to find hidden military supplies. The tribunal members watched as Korean soldiers entered the building through the main doors. Their movements were professional and cautious. They checked each room. The first floor was empty, Vextel continued. So was the second. We found some broken furniture and old learning materials, but no weapons. Then we heard a small voice from the third floor. The hologram showed a Korean soldier climbing stairs toward the sound. At the top, a small human girl sat in the hallway. She looked maybe 10 years old, with dark hair and a dirty dress. She was crying. The girl's name was Hai, Vextel said, his voice becoming very quiet. She appeared to be alone and scared. My Lieutenant Cosval was a father himself. He lowered his weapon and approached her to offer help. The tribunal watched as the Korean soldier knelt down beside the child. The girl looked up at him with large, frightened eyes. She said something in her human language that the translator rendered as "please help me." Cosval reached out to comfort her. Vextel continued. That was when she pressed the button hidden in her hand. The explosion filled the hologram with bright light. When it cleared, both the human child and the Korean soldier were gone. Only burned debris remained in the hallway. Mordok leaned back in shock. A child. The humans had filled her backpack with explosives made from cleaning chemicals. Vextel explained. She knew she would die. She chose to die. She was 10 years old. The hologram changed to show more scenes from around Earth. Human children no older than 12 carrying weapons, setting traps, fighting alongside adults. Elderly humans who moved slowly but built deadly devices with steady hands. This was happening everywhere, Vextel said. In Tokyo, an 80-year-old woman named Soon invited our soldiers into her home for tea. The tea was poisoned. In Seoul, twin brothers who looked maybe 15 worked together to collapse a building on our supply convoy. Zixstock clicked his mandibles nervously. Surely their adult leaders condemned these actions. Vextel laughed, but the sound was hollow and bitter. The adult leaders encouraged them. They broadcast messages telling their people that every sacrifice would be remembered. Every death would be avenged. The image showed a human woman standing in front of cameras. Behind her, a city burned from Korean bombardment. She spoke with calm determination despite the destruction around her. This is you, Vextel explained. She lost her entire family in our attack on her city. Instead of surrendering or seeking peace, she made a speech that every human on the planet watched. The tribunal listened as the translation system converted her words. They came to our world thinking we would kneel. They were wrong. For every human they kill, we will kill 10 of them. For every child they murder, we will make them pay with blood. We do not surrender. We do not negotiate. We fight until we win, or until we are all dead. Billions of humans heard those words, Vextel said, and they believed them. The hologram showed the aftermath of Yu's speech. Across Earth, humans emerged from hiding places, carrying improvised weapons. They moved through cities like swarms, attacking any Korean soldiers they found. But the worst part was not their attacks, Vextel continued. The worst part was that they recorded everything. The image split into dozens of smaller screens, each showing different scenes of violence. Humans fighting Korean soldiers with kitchen knives. Children throwing bottles filled with acid. Elderly people building bombs in their basements. They filmed their own deaths, Vextel said, his voice barely audible. When Little Hai killed herself and my lieutenant, other humans recorded it from nearby windows. They shared the video across their network within minutes. The tribunal members sat in stunned silence as they watched more recordings. Humans of all ages dying as they attacked technologically superior enemies. Every death became propaganda, Vextel explained. Every fallen human inspired 10 others to join the fight. In any normal conquest, casualties discourage resistance. With humans, casualties encouraged more resistance. The hologram showed a human man named Ho standing in front of a primitive aircraft. He looked directly into the camera and spoke calmly. My name is Ho. The translation rendered his words. I am a teacher. I have never been a soldier, but today I will fly this plane into an alien ship because my students deserve a future without slaves. Remember me not as a hero, but as someone who did what was necessary. The tribunal watched in horror as Ho's small aircraft crashed directly into a Korean warship, damaging it severely before both exploded. That video was watched by every human pilot on the planet, Vextel whispered. Within hours, dozens of them were copying Ho's example. Vextel looked up at the tribunal members with haunted eyes. We had never fought an enemy that became stronger. Through loss, every human we killed created 10 more enemies. Every victory made them more determined. Vextal activated the device again, and the hologram showed massive Corian warships filling Earth's sky. There were hundreds of them now, their dark holes blocking out the sun over major cities. High Command refused to believe our reports, Vextal said, staring at the image. They thought we were exaggerating. 50,000 soldiers defeated by primitive humans. Impossible, they said. The tribunal watched as more ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. These vessels were larger than the first wave, bristling with weapons and carrying advanced technology. Admiral Cormac arrived with the Second Fleet, Vextal continued. 100,000 fresh soldiers, our most powerful weapons, orbital bombardment platforms. He promised to end a human resistance in 1 week. Mordok leaned forward. What happened? Vextal's expression grew darker. The humans were ready for us. The hologram shifted to show a human working in what appeared to be a damaged garage. The man's name tag read Dong. He was middle-aged with oil-stained clothes, looking like an ordinary mechanic. On his workbench lay pieces of Corian equipment. Dong had never seen alien technology before our invasion, Vextal explained. He fixed human vehicles for a living. But somehow, he figured out how our plasma rifles worked in just 3 days. The tribunal watched as Dong carefully took apart a captured Corian weapon. He examined each piece, made notes on paper, and began building something new, using both alien parts and human materials. He combined our energy systems with human manufacturing techniques, Vextal said. Then he shared his designs on their internet. Within a week, humans across the planet were building hybrid weapons. The image changed to show human fighters, carrying strange-looking guns that fired bright energy beams. The weapons looked crude compared to Corian technology, but they worked. A woman named Min led one of the first attacks using these new weapons, Vextal continued. She had been a factory worker before the invasion. Now she commanded 200 fighters in the ruins of Seoul. The hologram showed Min's group moving through destroyed city streets. They wore mixed clothing, some in military uniforms, others in civilian clothes, even children carrying weapons too big for their small hands. They hit our supply depot at dawn, Vextal said. We were expecting human tactics, hit-and-run attacks, improvised explosives, suicide bombers. Instead, they fought like a real army. The tribunal watched as Min's fighters advanced in coordinated groups, using captured Corian vehicles for cover. They moved with surprising discipline, communicating through hand signals and coordinated strikes. But they still fought like humans, Vextal added quietly. When their vehicles were destroyed, they kept fighting on foot. When they ran out of ammunition, they used knives and clubs. When they were wounded, they kept fighting until they died. The image showed the aftermath of the battle. The Corian supply depot was completely destroyed, its defenders scattered or dead. But the human fighters had paid a terrible price. Bodies lay everywhere among the wreckage. Any normal species would have retreated after taking such losses. Vextal said. The humans did something else entirely. The hologram changed to show Min standing among her dead fighters. She was wounded, bleeding from several cuts, but her eyes burned with determination. She spoke into a recording device while smoke rose around her. We lost 40 good people today. The translation system rendered her words. But we took their weapons. We learned their weaknesses. Tomorrow we will hit them twice as hard with twice as many fighters. Vextal looked at the tribunal members. She kept her promise. The next day, 400 humans attacked our main base, using the weapons they had captured. The image shifted to show aerial views of Earth's major cities. Where once there had been organized urban areas, now there were only ruins and burning buildings. But in those ruins, humans moved like insects, constantly rebuilding and attacking. Admiral Cormac decided to end the resistance with orbital bombardment, Vextal said. He ordered the destruction of entire city blocks where humans were hiding. The hologram showed energy beams falling from space, turning buildings to dust and creating massive craters in the ground. The destruction was overwhelming. No human technology could defend against such weapons. For 3 days, we burned their cities, Vextal continued. Millions of humans died. We thought surely this would break their will to fight. The tribunal members waited as Vextal paused, his hands shaking harder now. Instead, it made them angrier, he whispered. The image changed to show a human pilot named Ho, sitting in the cockpit of a primitive aircraft. The plane was small and looked fragile compared to Corian technology, but it had been modified with strange additions. Ho was a civilian pilot before the war, Vextal explained. He flew small aircraft for business purposes. After we destroyed his city, he volunteered for something the humans called a special mission. The tribunal watched as Ho's aircraft took off from a hidden runway. It flew straight up toward the Corian fleet orbiting above Earth. His plane was filled with human explosives and radioactive material, Vextal said. He flew it directly into the Admiral's flagship. The hologram showed the moment of impact. The small human aircraft struck the massive Corian warship and exploded in a ball of fire. The alien vessel, designed to withstand attacks from other starships, was severely damaged by one human flying a primitive plane. O's attack killed Admiral Cormac and destroyed our command center, Vextel said, but more importantly, it showed other humans that even our biggest ships could be hurt. The image split to show dozens of similar attacks happening across Earth's sky, human pilots in converted aircraft, flying straight into Quarian vessels without hesitation. They called it kamikaze, Vextel explained. An ancient human war tactic. They were trading one life to destroy ships worth millions of credits and carrying hundreds of soldiers. The tribunal sat in shocked silence as they watched humanity's desperate fury unleashed against a technologically superior enemy. That was when we realized we were not fighting a species that wanted to win, Vextal said, quietly. We were fighting a species that refused to lose. Vextal's voice became barely a whisper as he prepared to tell the final part of his story. The hologram showed the massive Quarian command ship floating in space above Earth. The vessel was kilometers long, protected by powerful shields and surrounded by smaller warships. The Kurtith was our greatest achievement, Vextal said, staring at the image. No enemy had ever breached its defenses. Admiral Morkith believed we were completely safe in high orbit, far from human reach. The tribunal members leaned forward. As the hologram zoomed in to show the ship's interior, Quarian officers moved through clean corridors, monitoring Earth from their control rooms. Everything looked normal and secure. For 2 weeks, we stayed in orbit and bombarded the planet, Vextal continued. We destroyed every major human city. Their governments were gone, their armies were scattered. Billions of humans were dead. Mord interrupted, but they still had not surrendered. Vextal shook his head slowly. The survivors sent us a message. It was only 3 words. Come down here. The image changed to show supply shuttles moving between the command ship and smaller vessels. These routine flights had been happening for months, carrying food, equipment, and personnel between the ships. We needed supplies from our logistics vessels, Vextal explained. Standard procedure. The same flights we had been making since the invasion began. We saw no reason to change our routine. The hologram showed Quarian workers unloading cargo containers in the ship's main hangar. The containers looked normal. Metal boxes marked with Quarian symbols, sealed and certified by their own security forces. The first container held medical supplies, Vextal said, or so we thought. The tribunal watched as Quarian technicians opened the container. Inside, instead of medical equipment, they found what appeared to be human bodies. The corpses were dressed in simple clothing and appeared to have died from the orbital bombardment. Our medical officer, Dr. Zekmorth, wanted to study human biology, Vextal explained. The bodies had been collected from the planet's surface by our own teams. They were properly documented and sealed. The hologram showed the human corpses being moved to the ship's medical bay for examination. The dead humans looked ordinary. Men, women, some elderly, some young. They showed signs of injury from the bombardment. Dr. Zekmorth began his examination immediately, Vextal continued. He wanted to understand how humans could be so resistant to fear. What made them different from other species we had conquered? The image focused on one particular human body, lying on an examination table. It was a middle-aged man who looked like he had been a worker or farmer. A small device was barely visible, surgically implanted in his chest. The first body contained a biological weapon, Vextal said quietly, a virus designed to attack Quarian nervous systems. It had been hidden inside the corpse's body cavity, sealed in a container that would open when the body reached a certain temperature. The tribunal members exchanged worried glances as the implications became clear. But that was not the worst part, Vextal continued. The virus was just a distraction. The hologram showed other human corpses being examined throughout the ship. Each body contained hidden devices, some biological, some electronic, some mechanical. All of them were timed to activate at the same moment. A human named Tay had planned the entire operation, Vextal explained. He was a scientist before the war, specializing in what humans call engineering. He had volunteered to die, so that his body could be used as a weapon. The image showed Tay in a recording made before his death. He sat in a ruined laboratory, speaking calmly to a camera while explosions echoed in the distance. My name is Tay, the translation system rendered his words. I am 43 years old. I have 2 children who are already dead. In 1 hour, I will join them. But first, I will give the invaders a gift they will never forget. The tribunal watched as Tay showed the camera the devices he had built. Small but sophisticated machines designed to cause maximum damage to Quarian technology. He and 19 other humans had volunteered to become weapons, Vextal said. They allowed themselves to be killed during the bombardment, but not before surgically implanting these devices in their own bodies. The hologram returned to the Quarian command ship. Alarms began blaring throughout the vessel as the hidden devices activated simultaneously. Explosions rocked the ship from within, while biological agents spread through the air systems. The ship's shields protected us from external attacks, Vextal explained, but they could not protect us from enemies already inside. The image showed chaos spreading through the ship's corridors. Quarian soldiers collapsed as the biological weapons attacked. Their nervous systems, critical systems failed as the electronic devices destroyed key components. In the confusion, more humans appeared. Vextal continued, living humans who had somehow infiltrated the ship during the chaos. They had been hiding in the cargo containers, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The tribunal watched as human fighters led by a woman named Sue moved through the ship's corridors. They wore improvised armor made from Corian materials and carried weapons built from captured technology. Sue had been a soldier in the human military. Vextal explained, one of the few professional fighters in their resistance. She led the final assault on our bridge. The hologram showed Sue and her team reaching the command center. The Corian officers inside were already weakened by the biological weapons, their movements slow and uncoordinated. Captain Morkith tried to surrender, Vextal said. He offered to negotiate, to discuss terms for ending the war. The image showed Sue standing over the fallen Corian captain. She looked directly into the ship's communication system and spoke with cold determination. We do not negotiate with invaders. The translation system rendered her words. You came to our world seeking slaves. You found only death. Leave now, or join your admiral in the void. Vextal looked up at the tribunal members with haunted eyes. Of our invasion force of 150,000 soldiers, fewer than 500 survived to reach the escape pods. The humans captured our entire fleet. The hologram showed human ships flying through space, their hulls painted with crude symbols but powered by advanced Corian technology. 3 months later, they established their first colony in another star system, Vextal whispered. Yesterday, we received a message from the edge of your territory. The room fell silent as a new hologram appeared. It showed a human woman in a simple uniform standing on the bridge of what was clearly a modified Corian warship. Greetings, the human said in perfect galactic standard. We are representatives of the Terran Federation. We come in peace. We prefer it that way. As Vextal finished his testimony, alarms suddenly echoed through the tribunal station. A communications officer rushed into the chamber, his face pale with fear. Tribunal leader, the officer gasped. Human vessels have been detected approaching our space. They are requesting permission to establish diplomatic relations. The various alien representatives looked at each other with growing terror. Finally, understanding that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their brutality, but their absolute refusal to remain conquered.